Hi, and welcome to This Week in East Brunswick. IDK provided the rock and roll and the Elks Club the dance floor for Friday night's concert for the developmentally disabled. Tonight, we'll hear from the Foundation's director, Jim Musikowski. Gregory Hurst, a resident of East Brunswick and producing artistic director of Mountain, now playing at the George Street Playhouse, introduces this new show about Supreme Court Justice William O. Douglas. We'll look at upcoming programs for children offered by the East Brunswick Library. Martin Shulman discusses problems stroke victims may face, and Adrian Eisner talks about vacation timeshares. But first, here's a look at programming on Channel 8 next week. Firm up with floor exercises Monday morning at 10 with Lenore Kulik on Look Great, Feel Great. At 10:30, local youngsters gather for stories from the library. Tuesday night at 7, the City of Beverly Hills presents in print. Psychiatrist Carl Hammerschlag discusses his healing work with Native Americans in his book, The Dancing Healers. At 7:30, John Megliaro visits Rutgers' new athletic facilities on Sports Talk. Go inside WCTC Wednesday night at 7:30 when Dolly Vasta interviews Jack Ellery on For Art's Sake. And at 8, the Arts focuses on the Young Playwrights Festival. Thursday night will return with a new edition of This Week in East Brunswick at 7 and 8, and at 7:30, Sandy Landman interviews Jack and Eileen Sinagra. Be sure to check the Community Bulletin Board for high school sports coverage.
Nixon first ran for Congress in 1948. Someone pulled a third-rate burglary on his opponent's campaign office. Stole all the campaign literature, then hired Hollywood actors with fake Russian accents, dressed up in foreign clothes, knocked on doors, and went around handing out that stolen literature.
We are Russians working to elect the opponent of Richard Nixon.
I first met Nixon in the 30s when he was a student at Duke University and I was giving a lecture there at the law school. Years later, he came up to me in that patented way of his and told me just how important that lecture of mine had been.
Justice Douglas, I just want you to know that your lecture inspired my own political career.
I do believe hearing that compliment was the most upsetting moment of my life.
Hello, my name is Greg Hurst, and I'm producing director of the George Street Playhouse in downtown New Brunswick and 9 Livingston Avenue. And we're pleased to present the world premiere production of Mountain, a new play by Douglas Scott, featuring Tony Award winner Len Cariou and Heather Summerhays and John Venema. Mountain's a profound play, an emotional play that traces the life of William O. Douglas, the Supreme Court Justice, through 80 years. It flashbacks, it goes forward, and you really meet a lot of interesting characters, from historical characters, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Harry Truman, Richard Nixon, Dickie Whitney of the Security Exchange Commission, and you sort of get to go inside William O. Douglas's head as he reacts to his experiences in his life and how he made history, not only charming 4 presidents, but charming 4 wives. The man was married four times, and that became a bone of contention and was used against him for political means. Douglas certainly had an impact on our lives with momentous school prayer and civil rights legislation, and will be remembered for years to come. I think the play is especially exciting because we have the opportunity to have a world-class performer like Len Cariou, who won the Tony for Sweeney Todd and has been seen in many other Broadway shows and on television and film.
One night, I took Mildred to dinner at the White House. They sat her right next to FDR. For 1 solid hour, I watched that man try and talk to her. She just sat there, like a scared rabbit on the highway, caught in the headlights.
Bill, I'm not going to these things anymore. I never know what to say.
Oh, Jesus, Mildred. Roosevelt was easy to talk to.
Not for me. Can't you understand? I don't want to talk to a president.
Well, who the hell do you want to talk with?
People I know and love. With our old friends back in New Haven, with our children, with you.
Maybe you married the wrong man.
No. No.
Do you have any idea how many women would die to be here in Washington at this time in history?
Maybe you married the wrong woman.
I'm in love with Mercedes Davidson, gorgeous, cultured woman, wife of a diplomat. She can talk to foreign leaders, to a president. Mildred never grew. She didn't seem to want to. 28 years.
I'm only standing in your way, Bill.
So I certainly welcome you to the George Street Playhouse to see our production of Mountain, and encourage you to buy tickets at Ticket Central, where the number is 246-7469. Come join us for a marvelous evening of theater, where you can not only learn about the 20th century and important issues and ideas that have molded our lives, but you can also have a wonderful, entertaining, laughing, crying evening of theater that might just change your life.
Welcome. I'm Doug Halverson, Director of Consultation and Education at the Middlesex County Mental Health Clinic. With me today is Dr. Barbara McCrady, Clinical Director of the Rutgers Center of Alcohol Studies. Barbara, thanks for being here. Barbara, you've got an interesting project underway right now, a couples treatment and evaluation study?
Right.
Could you say something about that?
Sure. We've started a new program through the Center of Alcohol Studies to work with alcoholic men and their wives together. Typically when people want treatment for alcoholism, usually just the drinker gets treatment, and sometimes the family gets a little bit of additional help. But we've found that if we work with husbands and wives together, several things happen that are pretty predictable. First, the husband's much more likely to stay in treatment. Second, he's much more likely to do well in terms of changing his drinking and maintaining abstinence. Third, the couple is much more likely to stay together. When you treat husbands and wives separately, very often they end up separating, divorcing, having really terrible relationship problems. And finally, we also find that their relationships, in fact, do get better. And if we keep in touch with them for a year or so after they've received our treatment, that they do say they're happier, their family is doing well, and it really makes a lot of difference. So we've started this program. We take, because it's also a research program, right now we're just working with men with drinking problems and their wives, or couples who live together but not necessarily married. And we work with them as a couple. They have to fill out some research questionnaires to help us really evaluate the program. And then we see them together for about 4 months. We see them weekly on an outpatient basis. And really help them learn how to deal with the drinking, get sober, help the spouse learn how to deal with the problems that she's had in dealing with her husband's drinking, and help them change their relationship. So it's a brand new program, and we do have openings available for people if they're looking for this kind of help.
So you are looking for people who would be interested in treatment and willing to participate in the research?
Right.
Barbara, thanks for being here. With me today has been Dr. Barbara McCrady, Clinical Director of the Rutgers Center of Alcohol Studies. For further information about the research and treatment project that Dr. McCrady has been speaking of, you may call 981-0294. 981-0294. I'm Doug Halverson, Director of Consultation and Education at the Middlesex County Mental Health Clinic. Thanks for watching.
Is everybody ready to dance? All right.
Hello, my name is Jim Musakowski, and I'm Program Director of the East Brunswick Foundation for the Developmentally Disabled. Founded in 1986, the Foundation has run a variety of programs for developmentally disabled adults. This evening, we'll have the pleasure of listening to IDK, Original Rock and Roll. IDK was gracious enough to donate their time to play for us this evening, and we very much appreciate this. Our hats off as well to the Elks Club as we're coming to you for this program from the Elks Club in East Brunswick. A special thanks to Marty Fuchs, who helped us put this all together. The foundation runs a Friday night program every week, and anyone interested in getting information can call us at 521-4104. Next Friday night, we'll be going to Playhouse 22 in East Brunswick to see Something Afoot. On February 9th, we will be back here for a Valentine's Day dance. The foundation serves approximately 50 developmentally disabled adults at each program. Last year we ran a trip to Disney World. This year we hope to do the same, and we'll be running a variety of fundraisers as well. So we hope that you'll hear of us in the future. Thank you.
Part of my speech pathology practice focuses on the rehabilitation of speech and language in individuals who have had a stroke. Stroke is the third leading cause of death in America, occurring in about 500,000 Americans each year. A stroke results from something that stops the blood supply to the brain and cells die. If these cells are in the speech and language area of the brain, several different kinds of communication problems may occur. Let me discuss three of them. The first one is called aphasia. Aphasia is a language disorder. It's not a speech disorder, and the difference between speech and language is important. Language is the means we use to express ourselves and to understand what others have said. Speech concerns the muscular movements used to produce the sounds of our language. In aphasia, it's the language that's impaired. So the aphasic individual has difficulty expressing himself and understanding what's being said to him. Imagine you wake up tomorrow and you're in a remote town in Wales. Everyone around you is speaking Welsh, and you don't know Welsh. Well, you're not crazy, you're not stupid, and you know what's going on around you. You simply do not have the language. And whether someone asks you to speak or to read, to write or to listen very carefully, you have a language problem for Welsh. This is the experience of the aphasic individual. They simply don't have facility with the language. It's particularly frustrating because they know on some level they should know this language. Now, you may feel that the aphasic person does understand you, but this is really a tease. When we speak to people, we convey a good deal of our message through our facial expression, our gestures, and our tone of voice. And this helps them understand. But for the aphasic individual, the words are not carrying the message. The speech pathologist's job in aphasia is to re-stimulate language. The language isn't gone. It's still there in the brain's computer. It's just that the lines are crossed and the circuits are very overloaded. Speech pathology is a long process with the aphasic person, and many factors contribute to determining its success, but it must be tried. Now, the second type of speech and language problem that results from a stroke is called dysarthria, and this is a speech problem. In dysarthria, the muscles are weak or paralyzed, so you may have some facial drooping, some drooling. There may be difficulty in chewing, sucking, swallowing, and there will be slurred speech. The speech pathologist here has to mobilize these muscles again and strengthen them for the complexities of the speech act. The third communication disorder which can result from a stroke is called apraxia. This is a difficult disorder. Comprehension is fine, and the muscles are fine. The problem is in sending the message to the muscles. The movements are out of sequence or wrong entirely. The person knows exactly what he wants to say, but what comes out is often way off target, and there is a tremendous amount of frustration in apraxia. Now, whether one's stroke results in aphasia, dysarthria, or apraxia, or any combination of these, the impact can be devastating. The first few days after a stroke do not tell you the whole picture. There can be significant spontaneous recovery. But if difficulty persists, speech therapy should be sought. And it takes a lot of work, support for the family and the individual. Because when your communication skills are impaired, and communicating is, after all, our highest human achievement, you feel cut off from the world. And this affects not only the individual, but his family. Seek some help when a stroke occurs, impacting on speech and language. I'm Dr. Martin Shulman for This Week in East Brunswick.
Imagine a room full of 2-year-olds making snow with hole punchers and mittens with crayons. That was the scene earlier this week at the East Brunswick Library, where mothers came with their youngsters to participate in a special craft and story program offered by the Children's Department. Children's librarian Carol Phillips shared stories of snow and led the group in games and a crafts project. An evening series for older children, those in first grade and up, will include fabric painting Monday, January 29th, and ribbon crafting Tuesday, February 27th. Registration for the Winter Reading Club, which features the California Raisins, is now open. Most programs offered by the Children's Department require registration. For more information, stop by the Children's Desk and pick up a pamphlet detailing the programs, or call 390-6789.
I love reading to kids. Their little faces light up and they giggle at the funny parts and they jump at the scary parts. Reading to kids is a lot of fun, but it's also good for them. You see, if you read to kids, they'll get interested in books, and pretty soon they'll be reading on their own, just for fun. And they'll get better grades in school and get smarter and smarter, and then they'll be reading to you. So read to someone you love today.
Please read my book. Please read my book. Please read my book.
This is Paul Hansen from You and Your Money with this week's Money Tip. There are two schools of investment analysis which we commonly hear about: the fundamental analysis and technical analysis. Fundamental analysis considers past records of assets, earnings, sales, products, management, and markets in predicting future trends in stock prices. The other major school of stock market analysis is technical analysis, which relies on price and volume movements of stocks and does not concern itself with financial statistics. This is Paul Hansen with this week's Money Tip.
Township Attorney Bert Bush reported on progress in a settlement between Star Industries and the township at Tuesday night's council meeting.
The council is aware that the township has been involved with litigation with Star Industries. They developed homes on Hardenberg Lane, Vanderwater Court, and the adjacent area, which backs up to the turnpike. There were two separate lawsuits. We had filed suit against them because there was a hazardous situation which Mr. Neely was monitoring for an extended period of time. That there were 60 dead trees, and while they were on private property, one of the items of that lawsuit was to get the developer to take those trees down. We also wanted them to post some additional money for concrete work that had to be done, and there were various performance items that had to be done by them before they could go through the hearings before the performance committee, which now hears from the homeowners. They also filed suit against the township, claiming that the land that was to be conveyed to their homeowners association had been inadvertently assessed by the township, and the general policy by our assessors over the years has been when there's common open space owned by a homeowners association that land would not be assessed, that the assessments would be picked up by just valuing the houses in the development. We've negotiated long and hard for many months. Originally, the case was listed in tax court for trial on September 7th. We then prevailed upon that judge to adjourn it to December. And then the last date we were able to get was today, and Mr. Neely and I were in court on it. And the council had discussed this with us last week in closed session. And basically, the agreement is that they will do all of the things that Mr. Neely had requested in his memos to me of December 28, 1989, and his letter of September 14, 1989, and a rider that we attached to the stipulation. And among the things that they will agree to do, they will remove all the brush and debris. Mr. Neely had them get rid of the 60 dead trees, and I think that was quite an accomplishment because they weren't private properties, and each of their contracts with the homeowners said we're not responsible for removing dead trees from your property. They'll remove all of the debris, all of the trees and branches by February 15th.
The council discussed an ordinance proposed by Councilman Hudak, which would require developers to notify prospective buyers about nearby sources of pollution. The ordinance would serve to protect home buyers and is similar to an existing ordinance in Old Bridge. Mayor Jack Sinagra asked DEP Representative Richard Hills to explain recent warnings regarding methane gas to some Edgeboro Road businesses.
Basically, the way it comes down is this. Malcolm Perney was requested to do off-site monitoring for methane gas, both within the cutoff wall and outside. During the course of monitoring, they were able to determine that the monitoring wells sampled outside the cutoff wall experienced or did demonstrate high concentrations of methane gas. And as I understand it, the concern currently is that not so much that there is a imminent threat presently inside the buildings that are located along Edgeboro Road. It's the potential of a methane gas problem inside one or more of those offices or warehouses or whatever. The way it came down was, or the way it comes down is, if there is a migration of the methane gas underground and it emits through a crack, a crevice, a hole, an opening in the concrete flooring of any one of these offices or complexes on Edgeboro Road, there could conceivably be the threat of an explosion. Methane gas being odorless, of course, you won't smell it. The only way to sample for it is to actually go out there and test the air and determine whether or not that gas is there. The concern is that in the methane wells that were sampled, the concentrations of methane gas are quite high. The suspicion is that there is decomposing garbage in the area where this gas is being observed. And that means, again, and I'll be quite candid, that means outside the cutoff wall. I have every reason to believe in my conversations with the MCUA that the fact that the methane gas was detected outside the cutoff wall and that it is suspected to originate from decaying garbage has been documented and referred to the DEP. The concern now, obviously, is for us to determine whether or not there is an imminent and a direct and an immediate threat to anybody potentially impacted. As a result, my director has directed me through the mayor's office to initiate a sampling project tomorrow whereby our hazmat people will accompany the fire inspector to Edgeboro Road, and we will do whatever kind of sampling we possibly can to determine whether or not there are any concentrations of dangerous gases in the area.
Testing conducted by East Brunswick fire official Jim Paulus on Wednesday inside 5 companies on Edgeboro Road indicated that the buildings were free of any combustible vapors. Also at the meeting, Township Administrator Jack Coughlin recommended that the township join the Mercer County Joint Insurance Fund and the Municipal Excess Liability Joint Insurance Fund.
Hello, and welcome to Consumer Aware. I'm Adrienne Eisner, Director of the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. If you own a vacation timeshare, be cautious about people who offer to help you resell your timeshare for a fee. Some sales programs of this type may be bogus. Be careful to deal only with legitimate sales companies. A vacation timeshare gives you the right to use a vacation home for a limited, pre-planned period over a number of years. Companies that use questionable sales practices operate like many other telemarketing scams. You might be contacted by a telephone salesperson or through a postcard asking you to call a particular telephone number about your timeshare. The salespeople are likely to tell you that the market for resales of timeshares is hot and that their company has a high success rate in reselling these units. For a fee, often from around $300 to $400, these salespeople promise to sell your timeshare for a price equal to or greater than the amount you originally paid. In fact, the market for resales of timeshares may vary considerably depending on the location and the season of the year. The lists of buyers may consist of people who have never heard of the company or who have no interest in buying a timeshare. It may be unlikely that the company can sell the timeshare at all, let alone at a price equal to or greater than the consumer's original purchase price. If you want to resell your timeshare and are approached by a company offering to help, you may want to take the following precautions. Do not agree to anything over the telephone until you have had a chance to check out the company. Ask the person to send you written materials to study. Ask for company references, such as the names, addresses, and telephone numbers of several consumers who have used their services. Ask where the company is located and in what state it does business. If you are interested in reselling your timeshare, you have several other options. You may want to try selling it yourself by placing an advertisement in a newspaper or magazine read by potential timeshare buyers. Or you may want to contact a real estate agent familiar with the area where your timeshare is located. If you have any further questions about buying or selling timeshares, please contact us at the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. The telephone number is 390-6954. Our office is located in the Municipal Building, and we are open from Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. Thank you for joining me on Consumer Aware. See you again next time.